G'day guys, you're back with MiracleMAX. Today in the workshop we have a VZ Commodore with an intermittent no start situation. Let's check it out. The customer has complained about this intermittent no start situation for some time now, but he hasn't really brought it into me to have a decent check. The customer has stated that he can turn his ignition onto the reds, or when all the lights come on the dash, and nothing happens whatsoever. He turns it off and on, off and on, off and on, and it starts. So it could be a bit of an issue, couldn't it? So it's not like it cranks slow, it's not like it just turns over slow, doesn't click, doesn't do anything like that. Even the reds on the dash don't dull down, as you would expect them to if the starter was trying to draw current in the start phase. But nothing, the lights on the dash stay exactly as they are and nothing happens. As you can understand, it's an intermittent fault that can be a bit tricksy to find at times. Originally it was brought in with a no start situation and the battery was absolutely knackered. So I replaced the battery and he's been going around for a couple of months now. But this no start situation has happened once or twice, particularly with his wife, and he doesn't want that to happen. So I've pushed the vehicle into the workshop this morning. It was parked outside the workshop overnight because I want to see what the data is first thing in the morning. Let's hook up the scan tool and have a look. While I've got the scan tool up and running checking for codes, the customer has also stated that his spare key occasionally plays up. He can press the button and it sounds the alarm, etc. But the key works as normal. So is there a problem with this particular key as well, or is it just a bit of a glitch in the matrix? According to our scan tool here, we have two fault codes in the BCM. Both are listed as code 18, which is a manufacturer specific code, and it says auxiliary serial data bus fault. Don't know too much about that one. I might have to research that a little bit further. But you can see one of them is listed as a history. I've just done some very quick research with regard to that fault code number 18, with regard to auxiliary bus communication issue, whatever it was, I can't quite remember. There doesn't seem to be anything specific on the net, but these Commodores are notorious for several things, including battery voltage, slip ring faults, poor earths, they're notorious for poor earths, and start relays. They'll be the things that I'm focusing on today by means of the scan tool as well as the old noggin. One thing I mentioned that I'm trying to focus on is the slip ring failure. It's fairly common, as I mentioned. You can see up here at the moment it's listed as off. Well, what is a slip ring? If you have a look at the end of your key, you can see this little knobby thing here, and that's a transponder. That in turn contacts this slip ring, or this round silver looking thing around here, and that tells the PCM via other ECUs that you are using the correct key and the immobilizer can be disarmed. Of course, if you use the wrong key, it doesn't send the right signal. It's like a little transmitter or transponder, and it sends a message back. The ECU sends a message back this way, as well as the PIM and the BCM. Quite a complex conversation happening between all the control units. So what should happen when we turn on our ignition key? Well, of course it should have slip ring enabled, shouldn't it? And it did there for a fraction, but before it didn't. I tried it half a dozen times, and this is the first time that it's come up. Of course, obviously on camera, first time it comes up. And now it's enabled. It didn't enable it that time, notice. Let's turn it off and try again. Happened that time. Happened that time. But there was one time when it didn't happen. And that's what makes this thing an intermittent beast. Alright, so even though we've got a clear signal off and on, we're not getting consistency across the board with our slip ring. Alright, so that seems to be more consistent, doesn't it, as a fault, that is. So we might be heading in the right direction after all. A slip ring failure, perhaps. Remember, I also stated that it's important to do a battery check, make sure that your battery is in good condition. Now just keep in mind, I've been testing this, turning the engine off and on to check for my slip ring, so that might account for the battery being down a little bit. You can see it's what, 12.1, so let's just do a battery test and see what it says. and it's saying it needs a bit of a recharge. You can see, remember I said I replaced the battery not so long ago, 100% health, state of charge is 15%. That could be because I've been turning it off and on, and of course the headlights are on at the moment too. That probably isn't a good thing. Let's go further and do a start test. Start the engine. Okay, I will. Right, so cranking normal, 9.8, gets down to 9.6, that's a bit of an issue, but no, it's okay. Right, onto the charging side of things. Loading tested. Yes, the headlights are on, so now I need to increase my revs. So that's telling me that the charging is normal. 14 when it's loaded, no load is 14.3, and our ripple is normal. So the battery's in good nick. It's most likely because I've been cranking so much, and the headlights are in the on position or the auto position, so they've been coming on as well, draining the battery a little bit, but I'm sure that it will charge the battery just fine. I also mentioned that these have a bit of a problem with their start relay as well. This is the fuse cover under the bonnet, actually it goes around that way, Max, but if you pull it off you can have a look here and see that our start relay is this bloke right there, okay, and that in turn is that fella right there. I'm just going to pop it out and have a look at the relay contacts to make sure that they're in good condition. As you know, I don't like replacing parts unless I feel confident that they are faulty. So all I've done is pull the cap off the relay, that's all it is inside, and I'm going to have a close look at the contact points, which are, let's have a look, will be just in here somewhere. I'll zoom in on that and you can have a really close look. Contact points between here and in there, how close can you get? It's quite difficult to see, but they're quite pitted and burnt. So I am going to put another relay in there because I feel confident that this would add to the situation. Not necessarily the full situation, but it certainly won't help. So I'm just going to pop in another relay. Those points are definitely burnt. I've managed to disassemble the relay and you can see the contact points there and there. Just put a little bit more light on there for you. Can you see that? They're quite pitted and burnt, aren't they? So I do feel confident replacing a relay will not be a waste of the customer's money, but in fact part of the cause of the issue, and hopefully that will help toward a starting point every single time. I'm going to do the slip ring as well because that certainly indicates that that's faulty too. But yeah, these are another common problem, so it might have more than one fault. But yep, there we go. Contact points that are not happy Jan. I'm not going to give you a step-by-step of how to replace the slip ring itself, but I will say that this panel needs to come down like that. This panel pops up here. It does take a bit of effort, guys, to pull that up. There's also a screw down in here that you need to undo to get the bottom section off. Pop that fella out the road. Pop this fella down here. Might need to pull that, and of course that goes over your slip ring. And what's catching on here? Like that. It's out the road. Slip ring rubber comes off. Like that, or the whole assembly. As you can see, two wires on the back. Fairly simple. Simples! I decided to go genuine with the slip ring. It's a 9250-9784 genuine. So it's just a matter of replacing this wire here, and it should be all honky-dory. That's the theory. The other one's just a male terminal. That's pretty easy. That's the slip ring itself. It just slides on in theory. There it goes. And this other fella's a bit harder. Yeah, it's just an LED. So, there we go. Just had to get a bit more vicious there, Max. Pop him in. Like that, and it's ready to go back on. The old one here, you can see there's no real locating area. It looks like it just pops straight on. I'm not popping hard enough, Max. Got to pop harder. Like that. It's got him. Schneise. And of course, putting it back is just a reversal of pulling it apart. And pop the screw back here. That should hold the bottom section in place as well. Bottom panel clips back in place. Let's have a look at the scan tool, see what it does now. Well, I've just reassembled it all, and wouldn't you know it, stupid thing won't work. Trying the ignition key off and on, having a look at the scan tool. Max, think about the basics. Remember? You pulled out the start relay, you idiot. Okay, got to pop down to the spare parts place, pick myself up a relay, should be all good. Ignition switch is coming on via the scan tool, everything appears to be okay. Goodie! I'm just about to pop in my new relay that I've gone and bought, and that'll go into the socket down here. Now, I just thought I'd give you a bit of a heads up, which can be a bit of a trick for young players. If we have a look at the pins themselves, they're listed on the back of the relay. Have a look at the numbers, 86, 30, 87 and 85. And you think, well, so what, Max? Who cares? In actual fact, you should care, because this fella here is called Relay A. Relay B is this one here, which says 87, 86, 85 and 30. And you go, hang on, didn't you just say that? Well, no, I didn't. Let's put them side by side and re-look at them. Let's tilt them on the side there. Notice what it says there, 86. Over here it says 30. Yeah, very tricksy. 30 and 86. These pins have been switched around by the manufacturer. Yay, good one, guys. Okay, certainly need to keep that in mind. This one is Relay A, this one is Relay B. Just the design of them doesn't make any difference to how you power them up or how they're controlled, just the pin configuration. They've switched them around. Bit tricksy, don't know why they did it, idiots. Alright, let's pop the new one in. Which one was it? This one or this one? 86 should be up here. Yes, it is. That goes in there. Now, everyone's happy? Yes? I'd like to share something else with you guys. Let's just see if we can zoom in a bit on our relays and see if you can see what I see. Alright, let's have a look at all those relays together. What do you notice? Well, have a look at the colour on this particular one. So what is that one? Well, on the back of the fuse box it gives us the relays as well. See what it's listed as? Engine control relay. Let's pull that relay apart and have a look. I suspect there'll be some huge burning in that one too. I've pulled this apart, as you can see. I can't really fault it to a large degree. You can see the contact there is actually quite good in comparison to the start one. So I'm not concerned about that, but there's these burn marks that I am worried about, and there is a slight little discoloration, or there is a discoloration right up in here. You can see the metal has changed colour, so I'm going to replace it anyway. They're not that dear, but I am concerned by this burn mark through here. I can't physically see anything with the relay, but better safe than sorry in this particular case, and I'm quite happy to replace this relay based on what I can see visually. The only relay that was available was a Bosch. Not that that's a problem, but obviously it's pricier. You can see this little symbol on here which indicates that it's got a resistor across those two contacts to stop back EMF. Pretty important when you're dealing with anything computer related. You should always have something along those lines. And of course the important thing is that we've got our, where are we? 86 and 30 in the correct position. So that's correct for this vehicle. Pop him in and see what happens. Nice and tight, all good, should start. And it does. Woohoo! I also talked about how these Commodores suffer from earth problems, and the way that you can check that is by doing a voltage drop test. To do that, you get your positive lead onto the actual engine itself, somewhere on the block. So in this case I've got it on the bolt that holds on the alternator. The other side I've got onto my battery negative. Now when I crank it, we shouldn't see any voltage drop. So in other words, we shouldn't see voltage being created here. Let's try that and see what we find. Seemed to draw a bit, didn't it? Just try a few more times. Now we're getting a consistent 0.6, aren't we? All I've done now is add an extra wire from the negative side of the battery down to the motor itself. So in other words, I'm just adding another earth. Let's see if that changes our multimeter reading on startup. 0.5, 0.5, consistent 0.5. So yes, it does have a voltage drop. We need to address that issue. Like I said, these Commodores do have lots and lots of earth issues with them. So let's just have a look and see if we can find it, or just add another wire. Perhaps that might be a cheaper, quicker way of doing it. As you can see, all I've done is add a 6mm wire from my negative side of my battery, followed it down neatly, and it's up under here. Not sure if you can see it, there's a little yellow connector there. Hello! There it is there. Okay, so is that going to affect our voltage drop at all? Let's have a look. Well, it's a millivolt range. Well, that's clearly a difference, isn't it? So we've kind of addressed most of those things that we looked at originally. First of all, there was the slip ring that needed to be done. We've had a look at the start relay and replaced that. That was clearly faulty, and I've done that EFI one as well that didn't seem right to me. And I've created an extra earth cable onto the engine to get rid of an earth voltage drop. So yeah, matter of tidying it up, and we'll double check our slip ring, make sure we've got a good signal there too. As you can see, at the moment I have ignition switch and the slip ring, and also the key ID in my data PIDs there. So what happens if I try and start it? Well, it starts. So the slip ring is coming up. It doesn't always come up, but it's got a good clear signal. Over here it's showing that the key is key number 2. I'll just try the wife's key and see what that comes up as. And that's now come up as number 1. So her key is identified correctly, there's no issue there. So you can see our slip ring is enabled over here, and I've just changed keys again, and everything seems to be working okay. I have been working through an article that I found on TAT, the Automotive Technician, under the Repair Solutions section, which deals with the VZ Commodore not starting. Now, I thought, probably incorrectly, that every time you turned the ignition on, that you should get a slip ring enable signal, and that doesn't appear to be the case. As you can see down here, this was after the slip ring was replaced. You could see before it was quite hashy, but in this particular case you can see good signals. But it doesn't line up with the ignition switch, does it? The ignition switch goes off and on. This only seems to come and go as it pleases, which is what we're seeing right now. So I'm actually happy with the results, despite it doesn't appear to make sense in my head. But according to the results from this article, the slip ring being enabled in my particular case is working correctly. It's coming on occasionally to prove the ID between the key and of course the slip ring itself, despite the ignition switch being switched on at different times. So I'm actually happy with the results there. I've just gone to clear my codes, and as you can see, that serial bus 1 is still there, that I haven't cleared it of course. Comes up with number 2, slip ring failure, and engine start without slip ring communication. So I don't recall turning the ignition on while the slip ring was disconnected. They're history codes, as you can see, so I'll clear them and hopefully that should get rid of everything. Alright, no trouble codes. I'll just scan it again just in case. Let's try that. Just the body control module, that was the only one that had any issues. Let's scan on that and see what we get. We've got no trouble codes, good sign. Okay, let's just do a couple more cycles and make sure that it stays clear. So I'll just rescan it again after I've done those key cycles and see what it does. And no trouble codes, good. Yep, I'm happy with that. This appears to be a series of problems that have culminated in the no start situation that the customer was experiencing. Fortunately, I've had TAT to be able to assist me with some articles that have helped me through it. So I guess only time will tell whether this is a permanent fix. I believe it is. There were quite a few issues, as I mentioned, but I believe I've got it sorted for now. I hope you enjoyed the video today and got something from it, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so. Give it a like and feel free to comment down below. And hey, don't forget about that notification bell. You don't want to miss any future videos. So until next time guys, this is MiracleMAX signing off. I will catch you later.